Welcome back to Outdoors with Larry Ray, brought to you proudly by Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency, Barton Power Sports, Sportsman's Warehouse, and Best Care Home Services.
Hey, welcome back to Outdoors with Larry Ray as we close out today's show. And one time I said as we close out the show, and I thought we were gone.
You've had too many margaritas on this Cinco de Mayo.
That's not going to happen, but you never know, when you reach my age. And I'm looking forward to May 23rd and that 75th birthday. I'll be middle-aged for a 150-year-old man.
Yeah.
So I'm hanging around over here.
75 is the new 60.
That's right. Thank you, Bill. That's why Bill Cox is here today, to boost my spirits and everything. But, hey, Gene Smith, I know.
Yes, sir.
You got anything going?
Yeah. Well, I was talking to some little kids at church, and they was talking about their mother going to the bathroom and stepping on the scales. And one of the boys said, well, what is this? She said, well, it must be a religious thing. He said, what are you talking about? She said, every time Mama gets on it, she said, oh, my God.
I got to ask you, Gene, how did things go at Graceland? Gene was out at Graceland with all those scouts. How many did you have?
I think it was over 600.
Over 600.
Yeah, and Tammy Brewster, their name Brewer.
Brewer, yeah.
TWRA, she came down to help me out, and we had a good time. A lot of kids, because I showed you some pictures.
Yes, you've done it before.
Oh, yeah, this is about probably the 10th time I've done that. It's inside now.
Yeah, it's not out on the grounds.
I used to. It was outside underneath the canopy, and it got kind of cool.
So how do they get all those kids inside?
Well, it's a big building. You can almost put this building here inside that room.
So why do they need another building, I wonder?
I have no idea. That's what I was wondering.
But anyway, you had all those kids out there.
Yeah.
And Elvis, did he show up?
No, there was a lookalike Elvis there. He was there.
He was?
Yeah.
Okay, we need to get him on the show.
There you go.
Find out
now, at Shelby Farms, the next weekend, I had 245 kids from Olive Branch Elementary School.
245?
Yeah, I took 35 at a time. We did a round-robin thing.
35?
But it was interesting. All first graders, and I had a life-size buffalo in the room with me, and the kids was asking me certain things about the buffalo.
I'm afraid to ask you what the kids were going to ask you.
I won't repeat that.
No, I know the buffalo was at, but you got any classes or anything?
No, I'm thinking about, like Bill said a while ago, that with the range closed, I need to have one pretty quick, because Tammy said she'd come down and help me.
Yeah.
So I can have one at my church anytime.
All right, and Leewood, if they want to contact her.
Yeah, I was wondering, I could have been having some online courses, to get the numbers up or get them out where they can hunt, because, like I say, squirrel season opens up, this weekend?
Yeah, squirrel season opens up on the 12th of May and goes through June the 10th for all you hundreds and thousands of spring squirrels hunters out there.
When I was growing up, we used to call that the mulberry season.
That's the mulberry season?
Right, that's right.
Oh, okay.
And don't forget there's an apprentice license. If you can't get to a hunter ed class, you can get a...
You can't get it the
apprentice.
apprentice.
Buy an apprentice license and hunt this year until you can get it.
Now, how many times can you have this? Somebody told me you could have it more than once. Is that true?
I think maybe twice, but
go to tnwildlife.org.
Yeah, don't count on my
go to tnwildlife.org
testimony on that.
and do some of that. But and Bill, you mentioned something else we didn't get to talk about, and I can't remember what it was.
Bows.
Yeah, let's talk about the air bows. Because Dave Gabbert seemed to know a little bit about these things, but the proposal. I mean, do we have a proposal?
There was a lot of public comment to legalize air bows. The agency has recommended approval of air bows and air guns of a certain caliber on the gun for big game seasons, and the air bow for disabled, qualified disabled hunters during archery. But the big fuss. And I've gotten a lot of emails.
You've gotten emails from California or something.
From a lot of people.
Yeah.
There's not any support that I can tell on the commission to make air bows legal for archery. So everybody take a deep breath.
And, Dave, you were talking about how this thing operates.
Yeah, and the number one, that's is pretty well cost prohibitive. These things,
they're not cheap.
They're not cheap.
Okay. You look them up and you can see. I've looked them up.
And I think one of the things that people have to look at too. I don't think the record keeping organizations like Pope and Young for archery, I don't think they would recognize an air bow.
And I think there's something else that we brought up at the meeting, and the chairman did, but we had found out that these airbows at this point, do not pay the federal excise tax that goes into the Pittman Robertson Fund that we get matched to fund a lot of the programs that TWRA does. So there's some concern that that this may not be approved at all this year because the federal excise tax is not paid on these weapons, and we might reconsider it if some of the companies that are manufacturing them lobbied hard enough to get themselves included in that.
So is this a public response, or is this a manufacturer response?
This is a public response. There was a lot of input for the air bow and air guns, and they are very effective. They've been on. Jim Shockey has killed this and that with it, and so I mean it's just another weapon. It's fine, but you could get probably in archery. You could get a crossbow cheaper, and I don't know that it's any lighter than a crossbow. But
it doesn't have to be cocked or anything.
It doesn't. It takes.
It's easier to use, but you just said what we used to have for a muzzleloader. You could not get a crossbow unless you were on the disabled list to use the crossbow.
Right.
And we know what today's crossbow has become.
Yep.
I mean, it's a long way, just like the muzzleloader. Was primitive weapon, which Mississippi I think still calls it that. No longer is the muzzleloader like the muzzleloader of.
They ain't shooting flintlock like
they're not shooting a
like.
flintlock like Dave Gabbert uses. And
you're just making a point to do that, I suppose.
And, I enjoy it.
Do you?
He does.
I don't think I could with the flintlock.
Yeah.
When that thing sparked and puffed, I think I'd miss him 6 feet.
He don't even notice it.
Well, he's got my Thompson Renegade.
I've seen Daniel Boone do it, and I don't believe I can hold it still like he
that
does.
was Fess Parker. You've not seen Daniel Boone do it. Now, don't age yourself now.
Well, yeah, it's Fess Parker.
Okay. Well, people thought, people he saw Daniel Boone.
Didn't Lewis and Clark carry BB guns?
Lewis and Clark carried an air-charged gun.
Yes, they did. Yeah.
So the technology is as old as Lewis and Clark.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's a primitive designed weapon as much as perhaps a crossbow is, or a longbow. Crossbows are pretty old.
Well, I can
Back
remember
in the Middle Ages. So.
I can remember going hunting, and I could hear caps going off and pop, and and no bang or no smoke or anything.
Well, the airbow's pretty loud. It's not a.
It is loud.
It's not a particularly quiet.
It's not.
Weapon, no.
Okay, but you said you can shoot it with 2 fingers.
It's not. Yeah, since it carries a charge and you can shoot it multiple times on that charge, you just cock it like a lever action rifle and it reloads.
A lot of things going on. Go to tnwildlife.org. You can read up on what's happening. You can go to TWRA TV and see some of the episodes that they have there, which I've found very interesting, and go to the news releases and those type of things. But I know there's a busy time for Bill during this time for the commissioners as they look to May. It'll come up before you know it. Their May meeting in Nashville, you said.
It is.
The last Thursday and Friday of the month?
17th and 18th of
17th and 18th.
Couple of weeks.
In a couple of weeks over at Buford Ellington.
Buford Ellington over on Hogan Road.
Yeah, over on.
Everybody would like to take off work. I wish you would and come over at 1 o'clock Thursday afternoon on the 17th and pull up a chair.
Are we going to have a commission meeting here anytime soon?
There's going to be a commission meeting I believe, in January at the Ducks Unlimited headquarters.
Good. Okay. All right. Y'all hear that? I always fuss about no one shows up at these commission meetings, and
one other question. I'm
as we close out. Now you're going to ask him something.
That's something for the discussion. I'm pretty sure that y'all might have discussed it, but it seems like the kayaks have exploded on the scene.
The legislation passed for the TWRA to manage and perhaps license paddlecraft.
Okay.
Paddle boards, kayaks, canoes, and we haven't. The agency hadn't recommended a policy on that, and we hadn't had a lot of discussions since the legislation passed. But they're a huge user group that use the lakes. I mean, the lakes and the rivers. And right now there's no regulation, and TWRA is responsible for boating in the state. So I suspect there will be some policy in the next year about paddlecraft.
We had Betsy Woods on 2 weeks ago, and we talked about that, and she gave just about what you said right there. Kayaks are exploding, whether it's and the paddle boards and all these different kind of things. But kayak fishing has gone big. I mean, there's tournaments.
And that's really a good thing. It's a good problem to have. You got a lot of people using outdoors.
Yeah.
But they use the ramps, and some of the ramps are not big enough for fishermen, and we get a lot of conflicts with using
Get them
groups.
off the water. That's what the bass fishermen say.
They don't want the trout fishermen don't want them.
Let me tell you about next week's show, because we're going to have Ron Wong and John Gordon will be in here as our co-host. We're going to talk to Harvey Horn. He won the recent Bass Pro Shops Bassmaster Central Open on the Arkansas River, and going to talk to him. But I'm really looking forward to talking to Butch Helton. He's a special events manager for the Pigeon Forge Department of Tourism, because Wilderness Wildlife Week is coming up again over in Pigeon Forge. And yes, it is in May. Not back in the winter like
not
it was.
January,
not in January, which I loved it. I loved going over there in January. But May is a perfect time for this now, because you got the wildflowers, the hiking, and all that. And that new conference center in Pigeon Forge is unbelievable. And so we're going to talk to Butch about all the events, because they're coming up that weekend of the show next week. So we'll talk to Butch about Wilderness Wildlife Week. Got a lot of shows coming up in May. Can't wait to talk to a lot of people. Bill Cox, thank you for taking time from your busy schedule to come here and not pump gas or whatever you might be doing.
Thank you for having me, and I want to thank Gene for doing what he does, and Dave for his service to the state, and I wish you the best in retirement.
I didn't retire, just changed jobs.
Okay, well, that's fine.
He's taking care of his
Thank you
wife.
for having me. I appreciate the time to talk about what we all love to
we've
do.
been wanting to do this a long time, because we kind of squeezed in Bill. And
I've always, you see commissioners, like I said, over 35 years, I've seen commissioners, and I respect a man like Bill that will tell it like it is.
Yes, he does.
I don't like somebody to get up there and just blow smoke. And he tells it like it is.
yes, he does.
I like that.
Yeah. Well, he's.
My wife says that's a fault.
We'll let her know. I hope she's listening this morning to know that. Cindy, right? Isn't that your wife?
Cindy.
Yeah, that's your wife. I thought that what it was.
42 years.
You're just a pup. 52 here. Yeah. All right, now, Greg Ratliff, thank you, too, for taking care of us. This is Larry Ray reminding you, as I do each and every week, it doesn't cost an extra cent to be a good sport. And
God bless the USA.
USA.